Right, this is going to take a bit of setting up, you do excuse me. It's Thursday night. It's 7:30-ish. And this is live. So, is there anybody out there? How are you all? I am doing this in landscape. No, it's doing my head in. Right, we're going back up to... No, operation is locked. That means I've got to do it this way around. I do apologise. So that's why if I'm staring off here like, you know, when you're talking to David Blunkett or something, that's why. I do apologise. So, is there anybody out there? How are you all doing? What's new? Not a lot happened last week or so. Right, sod this. Let's try it. Oh my Christ, what's happened now? Okay, right, just hands off, Dave, you great dick. Yes, I've decided to put it landscape in order that I might better see comments. Hello, Andy. How you doing, mate? Hiya, Chris. Landscape actually works. It's looking more professional. Not really. You can see all the crap in the background. So, what happened this weekend? Well, just in case you missed it, it was Street Weekend. It was Santa Pod's new Hi, Nick. How you doing? Must not mention Street. Too late. Bugger. Yes, it was Street Weekend. It was fantastic. It really, really was. I've looked at everything that was going on online about it. The buzz has just been phenomenal. Got your medical back, albeit restricted, and I've had to what? I've had to. Oh, crap, now it's gone. Okay. Yeah, we must. What a buzz there was about that event. It was, I had to come off the meds. Oh, right. So does this mean you get to go diving again? Or is it one of these where they'll always go, no, we'd recommend it that you don't? Did you point out that you're not going down in that bloody submarine? Yeah, what a fantastic event. It really was such a laugh. And I can't believe, like I said, the buzz it's created. And like I said, if you happen to have been on a submarine around the Titanic for the past week, then Street Weekend was, you met up on Friday at Santa Pod, put a run in, put a dozen runs in, whatever, handed your best timing ticket in. Then you drove inshore. Oh, right, okay. But, well, it's a start, isn't it? Can you not work on that? Work from there and work upwards or downwards, as the case may be. Yeah. Where was I at? Yeah, the met up on Friday. Then you had to drive your race car to Melbourne. However, you didn't go just straight up the A1. You had to clock in at a couple of checkpoints along the way. Now, some people did like one or two runs Friday morning and set straight off. Other people, some of us, didn't arrive until bloody Friday afternoon. It was lunchtime when I actually arrived. And we know saturation now. Oh. Okay. I don't know what saturation diving is, but it sounds saucy. Yeah, checkpoints along the way. Some people set off lunchtime Friday. Some people set off Friday evening. Some people set off Sparrow's Fart on Saturday morning. Hit these checkpoints along the way. One of them was, it started well, because one of them was a car park in the Peak District. All you had to do was turn up in this car park, take a picture of your car, and to prove that it had been taken there and then, you had to have pineapple. Yes, everybody, when they signed on Friday, was issued with a feckin' pineapple, which was a big secret until the day. So you turn up to sign on, and here, have one of the, what's wrong with this? It has to appear in every picture, so that we can make sure you didn't take these pictures weeks ago, and you're playing silly buggers. Right, okay, so you had to name your pineapple, and people went crackers. My pineapple was called Pablo, by the way. Pablo the pineapple. He came with me and Adam all the way. He got jolly bloody hot. Because, frankly, in that car, it was sweltering. It really was, because Friday and Saturday were both just glorious. So you set off, and this murky water diving. Ooh, that sounds saucy as well. So this car park in the Peak District didn't start well, because that was checkpoint 1. And the idea was that you can hit the tech issues. I hope not. What's the tech issue? You'll have to tell me what it is, because I don't know. It looks all right from here. That car park was at the start of Snake Pass. Friday afternoon, it came on the news. Snake Pass is closed due to presumably a fairly serious incident. The Snake Pass is a wonderful driving road, but it's not like most awesome weekend ever. Yes. Rusty gave his but he tasted love with some strawberry thrown in. Pablo is still in my fridge. But the Snake Pass was closed. It's used by HGVs. But God knows what happened. Anyway, a sudden relocation to Tesco's in Glossop. Yeah, it's all glamorous, this drag and drive lark. Then on to EDA, Engine Data Analysis, which is in Castleford. And from there on to Melbourne. And at each stop, we stopped at Tesco's, and it was a good job, because we needed water, and suddenly realised the only fruit that when eaten eats you back. Yes, or at least makes you a little softer. Yes, the Tesco's had to pick up some groceries because, say, for instance, a pint of milk in the car at the time had a life expectancy of maybe an hour before it turned into cheese. So restock on things like milk. EDA was so good, Ben. Absolutely, didn't they just? No, I didn't see the Lotus Carlton. I got there. It was well after dark by the time we got there. After having stopped at this rancid little Chinese chip shop in Glossop. So, Ben, he is a good egg indeed. But yeah, when we got to EDA, like I say, it was after dark, and the place was rammed. So I was one of several people who pulled in to the gates, straight down the drop, and crunch when the exhaust owl buggerins. So all day I'd been having slight issues. First off, the engines would not idle, will not idle. You let off the clutch, especially on the road. You let off the clutch. You push the clutch down, let off the throttle, and it drops down to idle and then stalls. And it really was wearing. So all I did was crank the little throttle stop screw up to. Well, I was idling at between 12 and 1800 revs, but I wasn't stalling anymore. Checked the water. And during my first run at Santa Pod, now I was on the street tyres. These Toyo Proxies, or whatever they're called, had been on the car since it was built by Mark, well over a decade ago. They were old, not much grip to be had. Now I tried to use my line lock. The line lock is a thumb button on the gear knob. So pulled into the burnout box, line lock on, didn't work, went sailing straight towards the start line. Buggerins. Did me run, and it was a 13.2 or something. Try long life milk. No, it's like drinking white paint. And it lasts longer. To quote Red Dwarf, it lasts longer because no bugger will drink it. So yes, I went for the line up, didn't work. Did me run. On the return road, I noticed that the dash gauges were dead, the factory gauges, all dead. I noticed that the voltmeter was reading 0, and I thought, oh, Christ, maybe I've thrown a fan belt or something. Then I thought, no, if I'd thrown a fan belt, it'd be reading 11 or 12. It wouldn't be reading 0. Then I noticed that all the other dash gauges were dead. Right, okay. It took me a full 24 hours to connect the two. That when I pressed the line lock, it had blown a fuse somewhere, and that fuse covered the bloody dash gauges. But it took me 24 hours, so I did the whole drive in blistering hot M1, Friday rush hour traffic, up and down. We went over Woodhead Pass from Glossop to EDA with no temperature gauge. Now, as you might imagine, that meant a little bit of arse puckering, because if anything's going to... bear in mind, I was also towing the trailer. I'd bought a folding trailer tent just for the event, which, incidentally, was fantastic. It's so much better than a tent. And it didn't take much erection. Yes, it was a one-handed erection, you might say. In as much as you undid a clip at the front, folded it out like that, bosh, done. You're ready to go Betty Bite. And it was all at 50 quid. But the only prep work I'd done to it really was to oil the piano hinge and to... Well, quite. That did occur to me later. Oil the piano hinge and... what else did I do? I put some air in the tyres. That was it. On my 50 quid trailer tent. Oh, and it had a sort of steel roof rack on the top, if you like, which carried the slicks. It was just wide enough to keep... It was basically... There weren't slicks. It was 2 tyres wide. It was perfect. So, yeah, towing all that with no temperature gauge was a bit niffy. But anyway, we got to EDA, no problems. It was lovely. And EDA was rammed. It was well into the evening. It was packed. There were people there thrashing on their cars. Ben and crew had put out like a table of snacks and stuff, and it was really, really great. And it was, like I say, it was buzzing. It was really alive. Fantastic. We made our way from there to Melbourne. We got to Melbourne. It must have been just before midnight. Yes, absolutely. Now, I can't remember. Why did I arrive at Melbourne behind James? Hello, Derek. How you doing, matey? How's things with you? Why was I not there at the same time as James? Had he set off from EDA before me or something? I don't know, whatever. Yes, whatever. So by the time we got there, it was nearly midnight. Threw the trailer tent open. Jobs are good, and had a couple of beers, which were warm. Everything that was in the car was warm. And happy days. Oh, time for sprint training. Oh, okie dokie, Andy. Well, enjoy. Good luck. See you next time. So yeah, got to Melbourne, threw the trailer tent open, Betty Bite. Well, after a beer or two with some of the NSCC competitors, because that weekend was a 2-day. Ben at EDA didn't shut till 2:15. Top geezer. What a man. What a guy. And I also noticed some absolute bloody hooligan making a complete tit of himself, doing monster burnouts in a bloody Mustang too. I mean, really, that is, you know, he's a young businessman. Oh, hello. Somebody up there doesn't like me. He's a young businessman, and there's these people behaving irresponsibly outside his work premises. Tut, tut, tut. I've got some really good video of that burnout, actually. In case you're wondering who I'm talking about, it was Ben doing the burnout. I know he was far from alone in doing this, but I think he won a prize. I resisted because I have a Mustang, and there were people milling around, and we all know what Mustangs like to do to crowds. So there we go, Saturday morning. The only sort of thing anybody said is the wind was blowing across the track, across the pits at Melbourne, and the dust was somewhere else. But the thing is, Arnie nearly flipped his trailer. Doing what? Doing a burnout. Oh boy. Mind you, Arnie nearly flipped his car at Melbourne, didn't he? That is a bloody fast little car. Little car, little AMC Javelin. But yeah, it's... So yeah, there was a lot of dust at Melbourne. Can't be helped. I mean, at the moment, again, they are collecting money together to resurface the pits. That's how it works at Melbourne. They collect a load of money together, do a job, then collect more money, then do another job. And they're doing the whole place piecemeal. And, you know, it's hard not to approve of that. It's kind of brilliant. But, yeah, it was dead dusty. And I noticed people like, was it Arnie or was it Luke who had the comical cone fields poking out the front grille? What's been done there already is good. Absolute. Oh yeah, I'm not denying it at all. But all I'm saying is because the pits haven't been finished yet, when the wind blows, dust, lots of it. But live with it. But like I say, that whoever it was with the cone fields poking through the grill, running without a filter, I thought, ooh, rather you than me, mush. But there we go. The no prep 8th. A lot of people had a lot of fun, and I noticed that some of the really big hitters, you know, Andy Bond, Al Mack, and so on, they stayed late. Most of us have buggered off, and they were still out running the 8th. I think they were. I'm not saying there was any needle going on, or you're certainly not. You know, oh, not staying long this evening, but congrats. Oh, thank you very much, Biff. How's it going with you, matey? How's things? Are you well? Yeah, so, like I said, a bit dusty, but some of the guys stayed late, nipping away at their times. I, for one, thought Melbourne... Yes, I mean, when you consider that, you know, having... Well, let's be charitable and say that Street Weekend doubled the number of cars in the pits. They rattled them through. Not in an unsafe way, just in a, right, 3 queues, run what you brung, Street Weekend, classes. You lot, run. Next lot, run. You lot, run. Back to number, bikes, back to number 1. And they really got it done. They worked bloody hard, and they did damn well. Tough. Sorry. I don't know what to do about that. That really is too bad. But the bikers will live. And I'm sure they got their all the time they wanted on the Sunday when more than half of the cars had buggered off. So it might have evened itself out a bit. So we ran there, and then everybody set off from Melbourne back to Santa Pod. Again, I think almost everybody did that run Saturday evening. Come the evening, it was a... Oh, no, but they've got... Well, I say they've got to, they can do what they like. They should see it as... Straightliners have traditionally been a motorbike club. You know, a motorbike organisation. That's fine. I'm waiting on oncology appointment. 18th of July, it's a long wait, isn't it? That's like 4 weeks away. Okay. Oh, fingers crossed for you. And it's always been said. The bikers say, oh, they're in favour of the cars, and the car drivers say, oh, they favour the bikers. Wasn't it just? Yeah. And it seems ne'er the twain shall meet. However, like I say, in this instance, it might be worth them thinking that Street Weekend meant a boatload of paying punters through the gate. And, you know, all those paying punters are supporting their track. Many of them had never been before, only a few moaning bikers. Well, exactly, quite right. Sick Week was a worldwide thing. Yes, that would be groovy, wouldn't it? It could be like, you know, satellite link up like bloody Band-Aid or something. But yeah, it would be cool. And the week part, I think the only way we could do something the equivalent of sick week or drag week, especially with the mileages they do in the States, is to have it across Europe. That'd be fun. So, most people cannonball back to Santa Pod on Saturday afternoon or evening. Or any of the scooterists out on the strip. They do have a whole class for like bonkers, Lambrettas and such like. I honestly can't say. Well, Street Weekend was to be listed in the data of all Dragon Drives until the website. Bugger. Oh well. I can't say I was, because if you've been to Melbourne, imagine one long strip. That half is the 8th mile and shutdown area. This part is the pits. Then there's a cross runway, of course. Spectator parking that way, bike pits that way. And frankly, I didn't even go and look at what was in the bike pits. So I don't know what ran. I put a few runs in. My first time ever on the Hoosiers that Nick gave me, which I'd stuck on some Fox standard issue alloy wheels. Still struggle with my launch because I'm a clot and need a lot of practice. I still haven't figured out what RPM to launch at. But it wouldn't matter if I had, because the RPM I launched at Melbourne, I think there might have been bikes, Dave. Oh, I'm pretty sure there were. I just didn't go and see any, and didn't see any run. I've never seen so many spectators. I had them when it was, well, quite. This is it, and that's good. That's brilliant. I mean, if the place should be packed. It's drag racing in the north, and it is great to see bums on seats, because from Trevor and Straightliner's point of view, paying spectators are money, clear profit, if you like. So brilliant. And I hope they had a bloody good time. I hope they enjoyed themselves, and I hope they go home and they tell all their mates. And the next meeting, they come back. That's what I mean, yeah. It's, hello! Hey, the Nightmare out. How are we doing, my mate? You all right? Let's see if it makes a difference at the July meeting. Well, let's hope so. It could be cool. You left your Mickeys at the pod? Oh, bloody hell, Derek. Or like I say, working out me launch RPM at Melbourne would have been a waste of time, because it would have been completely different at Santa Pod. Because, I mean, that weekend at Santa Pod, still yeah, me too. I mean, look at these bags under my eyes. Honestly, looks like my nose has grown a scrotum. But I do love your Camaro, by the way. You know what? I used to have a 78 Z28, and I did love it. Put it this way, I'll tell you how long ago it was that I sold it. Sold it for 250 quid. But enough of that. What was that? Yeah. So, great. Then you went to Ford. I went wherever was cheapest, frankly. Yeah, I was losing all my storage. I grew up on a farm, and when the old man retired, he says, right, you've got to clear all your cars out. I've got nowhere else to put them. And they had to go, sharpish. I sold an AMC Matador estate for, I think they've got £400. Here we go. I sold a pair of XR4i Sierras for 250 quid. And first yank was a 78 Z28 4-speed. Well, this one I bought as a roller, and the only engine I had lying around was a straight 6 with 3-speed manual. I may have been the first person to, instead of turning a 6-pot into a V8, I went vice versa. But yeah, I drove it around. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And Matador Estate, there wouldn't it bloody hell? And it was right-hand drive. I don't know if I doubt you've ever. You may have seen it. I came up to York in it once or twice. Because it was a right hooker, it was an export model. And the export models weren't built to run on unleaded. Yes, Ambassador, sorry, ballsack, talking about Matador. It was an ambassador. Woody. Sorry, I'm not calling you saucy names. It was a fake Woody. Because, like I said, because it's an export model, it wasn't fitted with hardened valve seats for unleaded. It didn't have cats, but it also didn't have hardened valve seats. All the valves were burnt. So it ran like a shower of shite, but oh, I loved it. Yeah, got 400 quid when I sold that. And it was to a banger racer, sadly. The only person, LS Ambassador, oh yeah. I don't know, I think I could be tempted to go sort of late Hemi in an Ambassador. That's 4i Fox, was it? Ah, yeah. The, well, again, the Foxes that were converted to right-hand drive were export models and didn't have cats and were built for 4-star. Yeah. The that estate would have been groovy. I always thought it would have looked wonderful to tow in your period race car. Sadly, it had to go. And like I say, selling 2 XR4Is for 250 quid the pair hurt. That really hurt. And yes, my Z28, which was in pieces, because when I bought it as a roller, it had fairly fresh paint and it was already starting to flake off. Somebody had done a bare metal respray badly, and the paint was starting to peel off of it. And I drove it around anyway. And then, had to sell quick sharp. When I cleared out my sheds of car parts, I need a stick shift car again. Yes, most things are, to be honest. I think that is a perfectly acceptable defence in court these days. It's Nick's fault. Oh, yes. Case dismissed. When I cleared out my sheds of steel things that I couldn't sell in time, 7 tons I weighed in. 7 tons of car spares. All for like Morris Minors, Marinas, Dolomites, all old stuff like that. Cars for which, steel didn't have the longest life expectancy, I think you'll agree. Anyway, where were we? So we cannonballed. We're back at Melbourne on Saturday night. We all cannonballed back to Santa Pod. We went via, which was the first stop? Darkside Developments. Now, on the way to Darkside Developments, we had some interesting things. First off, I've got to take my hat off. I need a car with a better stick shift. I've got to take my hat off to Vicky and Bella, in their yellow Corvette, who to Metacruman. I don't know. He can open a beer bottle with his teeth. That's all he needs to do. Vicky and Bella set off in their C7 Corvette with the Targa tops off, looking as glamorous as possible. It was great. Followed by Vicky's husband Pete with his mate Lee in a Shelby Mustang, and Lee's bollock naked with a pineapple over his genitals. He didn't so much get the Thelma and Louise vibe off of that. More sort of possibly Brokeback Mountain. I don't know. But yes, it was a lot of fun. Passing people and them passing you on the motorway, and you're waving and taking pictures of each other, and it was really, really, it's just fun. And we got to Darkside Developments, and on the way there, I'd note that my gear shift had become really notchy. You had to really bang it in to gear. Yes, I really had to bang it in. Ooh, suits you, sir. And up until that point, I mean, this was fairly. I drove with the Smiths for a stretch. She's a loon. Yes, she admitted that she treated the whole thing as a gumball rally. But the shifts were becoming really difficult. That gearbox had just been rebuilt. I mean, these were the first miles it had done, and I was, oh no, what have I done? Ah, Jesus, have I busted it already? But what happened is the lock nut on my adjustable clutch cable had buggered off. So my clutch was adjusting itself every time I pressed the pedal. And it had adjusted itself until basically the clutch bit on the floor. But because it was happening really, really gradually, I hadn't noticed it. Until we were driving through some little village somewhere. And there was one of these knobs who was walking along the pavement and then suddenly went, zebra crossing, straight onto the zebra, didn't look, stepped out. So me, slammed on the brakes and the clutch. Now, I was chasing Carl in his Corrado from EDA to Melbourne, even with his trailer out. No, people weren't dicking around with the trailers on, were they? So this guy stepped straight out into the zebra crossing. I stopped in time, but I noticed that even with my foot to the floor on the clutch, the car was still trying to creep forwards. And I think he thought I was just trying to intimidate him. I should have just run the prick over. But there we go. That's when I thought, it's not the gear shift, it's the clutch. Aha! So when we got to Darkside, and during this sharp braking incident, Subaru. Right, okay. No, I can't say I'm surprised. I'm sure somebody's done that over here. Honda is the normal motor of choice for an Austin Mini, I think. Anyway, my trolley jack, which was in the boot, came rattling forwards and gave me a rapid massage to the base of the spine, which I wasn't pleased about. But to get the jack out at Darkside, jack the car up, twiddly twiddly with the clutch adjuster. Happy days. Means I didn't get much chance to look round Darkside, unfortunately. It was at this point that Ian Wally, whose Cortina got so hot inside that he actually burnt his leg on the transmission tunnel. That's how hot it was. Now, if you imagine you normally see Ian wearing a bloody fleecy onesie, yeah, there was no fleecy onesie in this episode. So the Darkside went on from there, went to Straight to the Point. Now, Straight to the Point is in the middle of nowhere, sort of in Nottinghamshire, which is a bloody good place to be, especially as they like doing noisy things, and they are just, they're on a little industrial estate, and they are just taking over. Last time I was there, they had one decent sized unit. Now they have the adjoining unit on the other side, and several more on the same. He wasn't bollock naked, was he? No, I didn't ask, but I think because it was so hot in the car, he was wearing shorts. That's just me extrapolating from a bit of information. So the ring. So yeah, the Straight to the Point operation is wonderful. And when you pull up, I stayed out front because I had the trailer on, and I thought, I didn't know if I went down there, would I be able to turn around? Would I be able to park? No, I'll park it out here. Everybody else was in there. The front of the unit was open. There was a Plymouth Superbird, and then you had a look at some of the other cars that they had in, and all their Adrian Clagan. I apologise if I said your name wrong. Vauxhall FD Victor Estate. Oh, if you didn't see that was jolly lovely. Yes, and yes, then we rinsed them from some bottled water and some snacks, which they had generously provided. So yeah, Straight to the Point racing. Steve Walker's SUV, yes. Being built and boiled, weren't they just? Like I say, that they had some really interesting projects on the go. That FD Victor. Do you know what? If you gave me a choice between the FD Victor and the Plymouth Superbird, I would really struggle which one to pick, and I think the Victor might win. Victor may be victorious when it's finished. But anyway, enough. So from there, it was time to go barging down the A1. I did most of this journey in, well, the bird was a rep, so I don't care. I don't care. It was still gorgeous. I'm not sure if that's the one that I did that photo shoot with American Car Magazine next to the Vulcan. There was a Superbird rep, and Must have been Dave Billadou's car. Either way, lovely. And I don't know if it was the same one. But anyway, so yes, down the A1 from Santa Pod to Santa Pod. And like I say, it was just a nice, gentle cruise, still warm. It was Dave's Superbird as well, yes. Right, okay, sorry. So, yeah, I was going to say the white one in the chute belonged to some other dude whose name escapes me. And yeah, then it was Dave's Superbird, Dave Billadou. I was talking to a guy who worked there, and the owner of the Victor said he wants to be able to race it and take his wife for a picnic simultaneously. That would be cool. So a picnic basket and all that bizzle in the back. That'd shake up your bloody fizzy pop, wouldn't it? I like it, yeah. I'm sure his name's Adrian, the guy who owns the Victor. And it looks like it's going to be a bit serious. Yeah. Happy days. Yeah. Got back to Santa Pod just as... It must have been about 9 o'clock. Not far off sunset. And we drove in through the gates and it was like, phew, Adrian put cash in the street. Did he? Oh, good man, Adrian, nice one. So drove in through the ticket barrier, having suddenly thought, shit, what do we do with all the tickets and the pit pass? Fine, great. And me and Adam drove in and drove down the way. And as we came round the corner, in the campsite, people were cheering us back in. We pulled into the pits, and all the supercharged outlaw lot were like, "Way!" Like this. There were random people, bunches of people, doing Mexican waves. Especially that lot, the Volkswagen DRC lot, who were behind the bogs. Yeah, all doing the Mexican waves. Way. One kid, I didn't see this, but James said there was one child on the banking, the bank between the road and the camping area behind the sort of catering places, giving everybody Hitler salutes. And yeah, and people just cheering folks back in, and it just made it. It really did. I suspect there may have been beer involved with the VW DRC lot, but I don't care. I also suspect that by the end of the evening they were cheering anything. However, I mean, there's somebody walking to the bog. Way! It was fantastic. The atmosphere was just buzzing. The whole thing from beginning to end. And to be able to stand there at like 10 o'clock when there's still sunshine in the sky, I feel like gave them something different to do. Yes. Oh yeah, I'm not complaining or anything like that. It was great. And if any of them are listening, thank you. That really did make the weekend for me. Yeah, they cheered everybody, the returning conquering heroes, yada yada. And then we all got to sort of pop the camp up, open a beer. And it was great. And as, was it you said, Ken, earlier? You had to go around and remind people that there was another day of racing to go. Because we all thought, right, we've completed the road miles. Achievement done. Level completed. No, there was still another day's racing to go. So I was the Sunday morning, I was the Hoosiers back on. Boiled them up a bit more. And my previous best was 13.3. Saturday felt like the end, but it wasn't. Yeah, I know. I think it's because we crammed such a lot into 2 days. It felt like the end. So bolted the Hoosiers back on. Sunday, I'd done... That was a twerp. Friday, my best on the shonky old road tyres was 13.3. And my 60-foot times were in the region of 2.5 seconds. That's the sort of wheel spin I was getting. Like I say, I was barely getting a handle on it off the line. And Sunday, got a bit more of a handle on it. Burned the tyres up for longer in the water. Oh, what did I mention? Oh, yeah, I was going to. Burned the tyres up in the water a bit longer. Bit more grip. Got the 60 foots down to 1.9. and I ran a 13.1 and a 12.9. Delighted. Strangest surface anyone raced on lava. Anyone raced on lava? Molten? Probably not. Set? I could imagine the Icelanders race on anything. They don't wait to see if it's sensible. They just race. So ran 12.9. Was delighted with that. That's the first time. I'm sure that's the first time I've ever run a 12. However, Adam says, no, I once ran a 12 at York, it was still York then, in Ford's new Mustang press fleet. Press fleet Mustang. I ran a 12 in it. I don't remember that. However, I'll take his word on it because he's generally pretty good at this sort of shizzle. And, however, this is the first time we've raced 12.9. I mentioned that actually. I said that to James. I said 12.9 is good enough for street eliminator, and full stop anywhere. Vesuvian weekend, yes. Via weekend. Shit. Where was I? Yeah, first time I've run a 12 in something that me and Adam have built. Yeah, we can now say we've built a 12-second naturally aspirated Ford V8. Happy days. There's plenty more to come. However, after that 12.9 I ran, Bosch apparently then spent a good long time cleaning the track after me. I didn't know this until much, much later, and nobody came to find me to tell me what happened. Was the track due a clean anyway, or was it just, did I drop something? And if so, what did I drop? If anybody happens to know, do tell. Anyway, so back in the pits, everybody was, like I say, kind of buzzing. It had been a terrific weekend. Met a bunch of people. I think I've heard of the snow drags. Let's see, fire drags or liquid nitrogen? Oh, I've seen fire burnouts. As for liquid nitrogen, I'm not sure what you're hoping to achieve there. Right. Yeah, met a bunch of people. Like I say, if you saw the stickers on the back window, that was thanks the SW39, because I failed to bring my shoe white pen. So the chap in the Reliance Scimitar next door to where I'd stopped, he said, oh, I've got some letters and numbers here, however, I haven't got a W. Dropped a few drips of something. Was it few drips? I thought it was full length. But anyway, yeah, I didn't have a W, so we had to make a W out of 2 7s or something like that. That was great. The Swedish guys, yes, somebody just said the Swedish guys. Of all the people who bitch and moan about, oh, it's too far to go to this show, it's too far to go to these two guys, Peter and Linus, had driven their 68, 69 El Camino. It's in sort of like grey primer, if you like, and it had a sort of a really shallow truckman top thing on it, like a camper topper, but in line. It didn't stick up from the roof. It was in line with the roof of the cab. So basically, it was about this deep. They drove it from Uppsala in Sweden. They'd driven it to the ferry. The wet bit was the only bit they didn't drive. And then from Harwich, Santapod, completed street weekend, this and the other. That car, oh, I've got the horn for it. I really have. It's, like I say, 68, 69 El Camino, primered, lovely looking big block, concealed, enormous single turbo. The single turbo lives. Did 2 ferries eat? 2 ferries eat? Oh yeah. Okay, probably means they took the ferry from Denmark to Sweden rather than going across the big bridge. Anyway, yeah, there you go. 540 cube big block Chevy, 102mm turbo under the bed floor. Now, although the bed floor on an El Camino is flat, it's because they're based on the floor pan of a four-door wagon. You've basically got the rear passenger footwell underneath the bed floor. So if you make a hatch in the bed floor, there's a nice little box in there for you to hide a turbo in. And they did. And apparently that is a 9-second car all day long. I don't think they actually... Did they actually run a turbo? Was a Stefan G from Drag Week 6? Oh, right, yeah. Did they actually run a 9? I'm not sure. I know they ran a load of low 10s. But I didn't know whether they ran a 9 or not. Either way, they ran really fast. Then Sunday night, they drove back to Harwich and got on the 11 o'clock ferry. In fact, I'm not sure where the Harwich ferry takes you. It's not... Maybe it is to Denmark. But I think they did. Car had a suspect hole towards... Suspect hole? The car had a suspect hole. In everybody else's case, it was the driver's. But anyway... It was... Yeah, because I'm sure I saw them give an update. And they... Yes, that's what I mean, because they had the camper topper on the back. These two guys, who were not little skinny guys, they were Vikings, slept in the bed of the pickup truck. So like I say, with the topper on, that bed was probably... Let's call it 3 feet deep. So... yeah, not somewhere you want to suddenly sit up because you'd bang your bunts on the roof. Any road, they did it. And you know what? I saw a little a clip they'd put on Instagram or something, and they said they'd had a whale of a time. Great stuff. They loved it. The only thing they said, Britain's roads are shit. 10.3 and 10.6. Thank you, Derek. Yes, and like I say, I know they'd run some low 10s, but yeah, or as they put, yeah, the roads suck. They're not drag and drive friendly at all, he says. And you know what? He's bloody right. The roads are awful. And I mean, I'm not saying that the Santa Pod guys, Max, Callum, James, all the guys who made it happen, thank you if you happen to be watching. I'm not saying they picked bad roads or they deliberately picked bad roads, but everywhere you went, the roads are just shite. I mean, the Mustang has lowered, stiffened suspension anyway. It's low. It's, well, they do, but only because ours are old and most of Europe's old. Whatever. The upshot of it all is Britain's roads are shite. And, you know, guests are coming to the UK and foreigners are visiting the UK and they must be thinking, what has happened to this place? Because the first thing you see, you get out the airport, and I don't care how you leave the airport, I don't care how you leave the ferry, be it car, taxi, bus, whatever, you're using the roads, and the roads are all bilge. The Mustang, oh, there's so many wince moments where, you know, your car is being jarred and the trailer is bouncing up and down because the bloody potholes, sunken grids, raised manholes. Honestly, it was dreadful. And there was me thinking, oh God, some of these guys are going to struggle with the entrance road to Melbourne. That's probably one of the best bits. Yeah, and I mean, I drive kind of the same road every day to work and back. I'm Minister for Drag and Drive Quality Roads. I'm lobbying your MP. Nigel, you should stand as an MP. And I would vote for you. You're not in my constituency, but I'd vote for you anyway. And, yeah, the roads are an embarrassment. They really are. Look, I drive the same road. No, tense my arse so many times on a 6-hour drive. Yes, you can barely stand as it is. Then you're overqualified as an MP. Yeah, it was an embarrassment. Yes, come to Britain. We'd love to see you and knock your teeth out on our bloody roads. Pitiful. Yeah. So, aside from that embarrassment, they had a great... Sorry, what we should be embarrassed about, they had a great time. And I was really glad. And in a couple of weeks, they're doing Street Week Sweden. And I believe Al Mack is going over to do Street Week Sweden. Al Mack is taking a Volvo to Sweden. Before it erupted, during, I should imagine. I'll tell you what, if I was next to an erupting volcano, I'd be doing some pretty fast times out of there. I was watching the wrong stream since 7:30. Nice one, James. See if you can guess what we've been talking about. Oh dear. Second time for him in the car, no idea how many others. Well, quite, yeah. And fair play to the man, it looks like a whale of a time. Because the Swedes have nice roads. Oh dear. Yeah. So I should imagine that would be a fantastic thing. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure that the Swedish one is probably up there with the American ones, Drag and Drive, in terms of numbers, distances, venues. And nice roads but crap tracks. Ah, right, okay. Well, you know what? I'd almost take that as a exchange. Almost. I mean, I know that Santa Pod is... Oh, because don't forget, of course, while we were there on Friday at Santa Pod, Mr. Willard, the Aussie with the Outlaw Anglia, who's visiting for Dragstalgia, was putting through down a few test passes. He drove up to the start of the track in his Ford Pop, well, bosh, 6.7 at 206 miles an hour. On his shakedown pass off the trailer, he broke time ET and speed records for Ford Pop. He came from halfway around the world to the country where they built the fecking cars and dicked us at it. It's going to be like cricket all over again, isn't it? The Australians, the bloody colonials are going to come and kick our asses at these things. Oh yeah, but I'm sorry, that's where I was going with that, Ken, is that Australian tracks are brilliant, but he ran his PB at Santa Pod. Santa Pod is definitely a world-class track. I've never been to a drag strip in Scandinavia. The only two... Is he not the first guy to... Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. He's set ET and speed. 200 mile an hour. Did Jed or Colin not crack 200? Or were they like 199.9 or something like that? Crazy. Either way, he's not just squeaked past them, he blitzed past them. Yeah, he is. They got to 198. Okay, beg pardon. Got to go feed the cat. But Tom Bailey doesn't have these. Maybe he doesn't have your cat. Different models, even a two. Yeah, okay, they were built as knockdown kits. So, actually, now you said that, the Ute, that was presumably domestic in Australia. Did we have a Pop Ute over here? I don't know. Right. Because I was going to say, I think it took me 10 minutes to figure out I was watching the wrong screen. Ah. Okay. Well, sorry. But, yeah, the Santa Pod, world-class track. Not to take anything away, is a Thames van not the same? Was a Ford Pop badged as a Thames? Now you're asking. I should know this, because is it Gary Layton who's got a very, very early 105E Anglia van? That is badged as a Thames. But I don't honestly know. Shite, I should really know all this stuff. Some clever Ford arse will come on and tell me. Right, so the like I say, world class track Santa Pod. They had a great time. Loads of people had a great time. Arnie in that AMX running eights, brilliant. All the Street Eliminator guys who were there. Yeah, like I say, James, who's not long joined us. Andy Bond, who won overall, brilliant stuff. Al Mack, runner-up. Rob Carter, close by. Graham Smith, Rob Slater. Bond, I don't doubt he did. Like I say, he did it right, didn't he? And when you think, I bet he was not giving that 100%. 300E not badged as a Thames. Probably. I don't honestly know. I know the 400E was. Sorry, off at a tangent. Yeah, James, who I said finished 10th. Now, after a slight rejig on the finishing order, because they realised that, is it Reuven, who was in that beautiful Chevy pickup with the supercharged LS in it, with the old school rocker covers hiding the coil packs, yummy, did not suddenly jump from doing 11.5 on Friday to doing 7.5 on Sunday. He had a dodgy ticket. I missed that, Chris, sorry. And consequently, when they rejigged the results, James is now 9th. In fact, everybody in between 10th and 20th, I think, went up a place. So James, now 9th. It's Graham Smith, yes, where did he come? I know he was struggling. Oiling issues, I think. But he still completed it. He just seemed to be completing everything a couple of hours behind everybody else. I wish I had a hat, because I would take it off to Scott Lineker. Scott has a little Vauxhall Chevette with a Nissan CA18ET, I think. Don't quote me on that engine in it. The little sporty little number you find in, I think, a 200SX. Fueling issues, and they forgot their oil. Ah, yes, I remember that now. Yes, you're right. But they still managed it, like I say, just late. Nissan 200SX engine managed to spin a bearing at Melbourne on the Saturday. Now, they're from Blackpool. Melbourne drag strip is basically the other end of the M62 from Blackpool. Spun a bearing, went, bugger, what should we do? Let's drive home in a different car, pick up some new bearings, drive back. Or we'll send a friend off to do that, while I drop the subframe and the sump. When they've come back from driving literally across the country and back with some new bearings, or I think not necessarily new, I think some of them were second hand, we're going to change the bearings, drive to Santa Pod. And they did. Now, bear in mind what I said earlier about the grit flying around Melbourne. The dust was just incredible. So what do you do when there's dust in the air? Take your sump off, change your bearings. I know. And to be fair to the fellas, they got it done at some Christless hour of the morning. 2:30, I think they finished. Fired it up, and it was still knocking. But bugger me if they didn't set off anyway. They drove past the checkpoints, which they had to do. They went to Darkside, and they went straight to the point, even though it was some godless hour of the morning. And bear in mind, this guy had now been awake for probably thick end of 24 hours. Got to Santa Pod, did a run. I think he ran a 26-second run, and it sounded like the drum majorettes. But he did it. He knew he was never going to win anything, but he completed it. He put in that much effort to complete it. And I tell you what, when it came to, there was a NSCC put up an award for Spirit of Street Weekend. And it was, I think, for the beginning of the week, the Swedes were just like a shoe-in to win it because they had driven from back in Sweden in their El Camino to compete and did it, had a laugh, joined people's convoys, had a great time. Right, if that isn't Spirit of Street Weekend, I don't know what is. Yeah, I saw the pictures of the crank and I thought, I've seen worse cranks. Yeah, so they were a shoe-in to win Spirit. But when Scott rebuilt his engine in a dust storm at Melbourne, drove just to complete the weekend, yeah, okay, I think then it becomes, I think we know what the Spirit of Street Weekend is there. And the round of applause he got. But then I also felt kind of sorry for poor Colin, who got the microphone and said, right, come up and collect your reward, Scott. And Scott turned up wearing Ray-Bans, looking like shit on toast, frankly. And Colin went, and how do you feel? And stuck the microphone in front of him and he just went, oh, all right. Exactly, yes. Now, I was going to say, because of the lack of reaction time data from Melbourne, Ken's reaction time prize money is being sent to Scott for help with the rebuild because, yeah, various people had various trials and tribulations along the way. But Scott deserves every penny of that, he really does. And the prize money from the NSCC as well. What a geezer. You've got to love that much dedication. And then, no offence, but Bondi and Mac don't need... You're quite right. Although, the thing is, you know where they're going to spend the money. It's not like they're going to fritter it away on electricity bills or anything like that, is it? No, they're going to spend it on the cars. So, at least you know where the money's going. But, yeah, Scott, what a geezer. You've got to love that dedication. Right, well, I have now yapped on for in excess of an hour. And although I could yap on forever about Street Weekend because it's great, I'm going to wind this up fairly soon. Two things. One, did anybody see the video about things... Hello, Tony, how you doing, mate? About what people were doing with their pineapples. A lot of them seem to have been made into some sort of cocktail. Did you see the one about Callum and Max's pineapple, who was called Pedro? He had a very, very unfortunate accident today when they accidentally left him on a wall behind the jet car as it fired up at Santa Parta. And then, rather clumsily, they left him in the middle of the drift arena when a 350Z was going sideways over. It was, a tragic series of errors. But anyway, Pedro is now Deadro. My pineapple, Pablo, is in the fridge. I'm thinking I may have some Pablo for dessert tonight. So, before you all go, one thing I should have said at the start. More info to follow, but especially if you're a fan of Shaky County Raceway, keep October the 21st free. More details later. Is it going to be a Street Weekend 24? Well, I won't be at Dragstalgia. Adam will. Adam's going to Dragstalgia without me. He's going to be crewing for Simon Boot, apparently. But I'm not, because not this weekend coming, but the following weekend, I'm crewing for James at the Summer Nationals. And then the weekend after Dragstalgia, I'll be crewing for him again at Bug Jam. Yes, October 21st, bear that date in mind, details to follow. Street Weekend 24, I'm damn sure that with how popular it was, yes, what Ken said, with how popular it was, I think they've realised they've got a bit of a winner on their hands. I'd almost be wondering And for this, believe me, I would have my bit right out if they'd combine it with door slammers. Because, you know, door slammers, actually, I don't know if that would be the case. But wouldn't that be great? However, I think they've dropped it in June for a reason. And sharing it with the Sportsman Nationals, which, fair play, is, you know, a national championship event. The place was not packed. So it was a good event to drop an additional 80 cars into. Gutted to be in Tierp last weekend. Ah! Well, in that case, if Keith wants Street Weekend not to clash with Tierp, who's the only man who can make that happen? Which brings me back to my point of, wouldn't it be great if it was dropped in with door slammers? Oh, because that would be two really, really fruity events together. And I say fruity, I'm not talking about just pineapples. But that is something I'd really, really love to see. However, there we go. The powers that be will make their decisions, and I, for one, actually, I'm not going to say, yes, I'll be there at Street Weekend 2024, because Adam will be in the middle of his A-levels. We shall see. I'm not going without him, that would be just mean. By then, I may be crewing for him. Get some of the Maltese guys. Oh! You know my Europe-wide Street Week thing from earlier? No. You imagine Melbourne, Santa Pod, Halfar. Oh, yeah. No, I'll be having a bit of that. Except, well, let's hope so. And it would be nice to have a reciprocal arrangement whereby we go and see them for their Street Week. But wouldn't that be... we should get lottery funding for sort of an international cooperation thing. But, yeah. In fact, yeah, Scandinavia... Melbourne, Santa Pod, Halfar. Oh yeah, that would be a Street Week. Oof, yeah. Sorry, I'm the 3-dayer was fine. No. Do we know anyone going to Malta? Are we really using Nick as an ambassador? Crail could be. I'm not sure how, you know, cars that do the quarter in 200 miles an hour, such as Mr. Bond, might get on with that. However, not wanting to include Sweden, UK, Malta, absolutely. And anywhere in between, Halfar's in Malta, yes. Clastres in France. That's only just across the channel. Carl Goldsmith in the Corrado told me once that his nearest drag strip is Clastres in France. No, we must stop before I start getting bleeding bright ideas about Europe-wide Street Week. In the meantime, I'm going to go and have my tea. And then, having looked at myself in this camera, I think I need to wash my face. So I've still got work smear all over my chops. So, yes, after all that, Derby. Could be done, I suppose. Except I think it's probably cheaper to get to bloody Clastres. So, there we go. Thank you all for joining in. Anybody who went on Street Weekend or organised it or was involved in any way, anybody who happened to be stood there while we were passing, thank you very, very much. It was a tremendous weekend, and like I say, I've never known a buzz like... The last time I remember there being this much buzz about anything, it was when V8 UK organised their sort of 3-day power tour, which was going back a number of years. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there. People want their drag and drive. Drag and drive is here, finally. So, there we go. Thank you all very, very much for joining in. Like I say, anybody who had anything to do with Street Weekend, thank you. I did ask on Sunday, I did ask Callum, I said, so are they giving you the day off tomorrow? And he said, ha ha ha, Dave, you're a funny man. Drag and drive is the best thing ever, what he said. Yes. Don't forget the Mopars. Yes, the Street Eliminator. If anybody who runs quicker than 13.5 wants to dip their toe in the water of Street Eliminator, the Class 4, the quickest and fastest road legal cars in Europe, have a look at the Mopar Nationals. It's the last weekend in July. Mopar Euro Nationals, last weekend in July at Santa Pod, where there is a sort of an open invitation for you to come along, try Street Eliminator, run a sort of ladder. Yes, the Street Eliminator website, which is being worked on currently, is streeteliminator.co.uk. Go and take a look. And yeah, whatever you're up to this weekend, whatever you're up to the coming month, have a really, really good one. I will hopefully be back, probably right here, a week tomorrow. Yes, it'll be Friday next week. So there you go. I'm going off to have me tea. Thank you ever so much for joining in. It's been a blast. And and that creaking noise, by the way, is not me. It's the chair I'm sitting on. I have a very loose stool, he says. So thanks a lot. Good night. See you next time, when hopefully I'll have the camera the other way up, so I won't be staring off into the middle distance like this anymore. See you all later. Good night.